Welcome to Ontario Cold Cases, the podcast, brought to you by Nickel Investigations, the podcast that delves deep into the unsolved mysteries that haunt our province. I'm Jay Nickel, a private investigator with Nickel Investigations, and your host and guide in this journey through the chilling tales that left investigators baffled and communities in search of answers. In each episode, we'll unearth the forgotten stories of Ontario's cold cases, exploring the details, the evidence, and the individuals involved with the eye of a private investigator who specializes in cold case investigations. From the mysterious disappearances to the perplexing murders, our mission is to shine a light in these cases and hopefully bring justice to those who have long awaited closure. But we can't do it alone. Join us as we navigate the twists and turns of these enigmatic cases. We'll speak with experts, law enforcement officials, and sometimes even the families of the victims, all in the pursuit of truth. So buckle up and prepare to dive headfirst into the world of unresolved mysteries. Together we'll keep the flame of hope burning for justice, one episode at a time. Thank you for tuning in to the Ontario Cold Cases, the podcast. Let's begin our quest for answers. Welcome to episode 2 of Ontario Cold Cases, the podcast. This is about Christine Prince. This episode is brought to you by Nickel Investigations. Thank you for listening, and please consider donating to our GoFundMe that you can link to from our Ontario Cold Cases Facebook page and following us on Patreon so we can continue future investigations. Links to all, including contact information, are included in the write-up. It may be the happiest day of Christine Prince's life when she received her special diploma in childcare from the Porthcawl College in Wales. She will wait 5 years before finding employment as a nanny. In 1981, Josie and Emil Krutzik of Toronto applied to Canada Immigration and Employment for a nanny. Christine applied for the job. After much correspondence, the two parties reached an employment agreement, and that's how Christine came to Toronto. Christine arrived in Canada in October 1981 and was living in the Krutzik residence at 66 Pinewood Avenue in the St. Clair Avenue West and Vaughan Road area just northwest of Casa Loma, where her duties consisted of taking care of their 3-year-old daughter Nicole as well as light housekeeping. Christine was happy. She was working in a position she loved. Soon the Krutziks considered her a member of the family. Nicole liked Christine, and the nanny was fond of the little girl. Up next, the abduction. On April 3, 1982, Christine met fellow nanny Gloria Betts at an English pub. When she left that night, she was dressed tastefully in a cream-colored sweater and light blue dress pants, carrying a brown leather shoulder bag and multicolored umbrella. Christine was 5'3" and weighed 126 pounds. She had fair skin and rosy cheeks, light brown hair, and blue eyes. The manager of the pub had introduced both Gloria and Christine to two young men from Overhome, and that's how Christine met David Curtis Smith. The two hit it off from the very beginning. They were scheduled to be married in October of 1982. Her fiancé cooperated fully with police, which included giving a full statement and DNA sample, police said. Late in the Sunday evening of June 20th, 1982, Christine Prince, accompanied by Gloria, set out to meet David at the corner of Bloor Street and Yorkville Avenue in Toronto. The reason for the late hour was that David worked as a chef at the Four Seasons Hotel, and his shift ended at 11:30 p.m. The three young people dropped into what was then the Zenith Donut Shop in the Bloor and George Street area of Toronto, where they sat and chatted until 1:15 a.m. Monday morning. David, who was going in a different direction, bid the girls good night. The two girls proceeded by subway and streetcar. At 1:30 a.m., Gloria last saw Christine at Bathurst St and St. Clair Avenue West. Gloria got off the westbound St. Clair Avenue streetcar and proceeded northbound on Bathurst Street to the home of her employer, while Christine stayed aboard the streetcar for the 4-block ride to Pinewood Avenue, where she lived with her employer's lawyer Emil Krutzik, his wife Josie, and their young daughter Nicole. Christine was known to be very cautious about her safety, particularly after the murder of Toronto Argonaut cheerleader Jenny Isford. Christine was known to usually take a taxi at night, not wanting to walk a few blocks home by herself, but when she did, she was known to keep to the east side of Pinewood Avenue because that side is well lit. Christine walked along Pinewood to the front of number 18. The night of Sunday, June 20th, 1982 was drizzly and she carried an umbrella, which gave her a weapon of sorts. What happened next continues to baffle police. Perhaps a stranger called out for help as she walked home pretending to need help. Homicide detectives to this day believe that the perpetrator or perpetrators were waiting in a vehicle. They may have called her over. Christine, being a good person, likely went over to give them directions or whatever. If Christine had went willingly with them, she would have taken her umbrella with her. Up next, Christine is found. This episode is brought to you by Nickel Investigations. A woman walking on Pinewood Avenue near Humewood Park the next morning of June 21st, 1982, found the umbrella Christine had been carrying lying in the middle of the road. The woman hung it on the doorknob of a shop at St. Clair Avenue and Christie Street, but later came forward after hearing about the murder and the victim's umbrella. A man, or more likely two men, were either parked or trolling for a woman to abduct. Some police reports say the vehicle was parked facing north on the west side of Pinewood Avenue, judging by the location where Christine's umbrella was found. They grabbed Christine from the street and dragged her into their vehicle. They drove over 40 kilometers just off Sewell's Road in the Metro Toronto Zoo area. They took their captive up a lonely road, often used by young people to drink beer and make out. Police later heard about reports of a woman's screams from the area early that morning. On the morning of June 21st, 1982, Nicole woke her mother and informed her that Christine was not at home. Mrs. Kruczek called Gloria and David. Mrs. Kruczek then called the police at 7:30 a.m. to report Christine was missing. Later that morning, a highway worker was cutting grass aboard his tractor along Highway 401 near Meadowvale Road in Scarborough when he spotted a wallet lying on the shoulder of the highway, apparently being tossed from a moving vehicle. Being on the westbound side of Highway 401, it was concluded the wallet had been thrown from a moving vehicle as the murderer or murderers returned towards the west side of Toronto. A search of the wallet revealed that it belonged to Christine Prince. The worker called Christine's phone number. Soon after, the wallet was passed on to the police. A day later, at 6:30 a.m. on Tuesday, June 22nd, 1982, a number of motorists traveling to work phoned police informing them that they had seen a nude body in the Rouge River from the Sewell's Road Bridge in Scarborough. Christine Prince had been found. Investigators can't be sure if Christine was killed near the bridge over the river on Sewell's Road or in a residence. Most believe she was killed at the scene. They also wonder why her attacker drove her all the way across the city to dump the body in an area where it was quickly and easily found. There was plenty of hiding places near her home. The lane off of Sewell's Road runs parallel to the Rouge River and is not easily visible from Sewell's Road. It's about 800 meters north of Finch Avenue East in Scarborough. Homicide detectives knew where Christine had been picked up. They knew where she had been driven. They knew a lot about Christine's last hours on Earth, but nothing about her rape and murder. Up next, the investigation. This episode is brought to you by Nickel Investigations. It was later established that Christine had been raped and brutally beaten there at the scene where her body was found, but pathologist Dr. Hilsden Smith, during an autopsy, revealed the cause of her death to be drowning, and she had also sustained blows to the head and had bruises and abrasions to the head, face, and body. Christine had died either at the hands of her assailants or as a consequence of her incapacitating injuries. It is surmised that Christine was only moments from her home when she was abducted on Pinewood Avenue. She was either struck in the head upon being grabbed, causing likely a great deal of blood in the abductor's vehicle, or she'd been held by one man while the other drove to an area he knew well. It was over a 40-kilometer drive. Strands of rope found at the scene were believed by the pathologist to have been used to bind Christine's wrists and or feet. During my investigation, I made my way to the area where her body was found, where the killer or killers raped their victim and subsequently threw her in the river. It's a quiet area in the suburbs of Scarborough, just far enough off the road and away from houses. It's easy to see how nobody saw a thing. It was not believed the entrance to this road could be found or seen from Sewell's Road unless a person was familiar with the road and knew precisely where and how to enter it. Although it's possible to drive a car onto the road, it is very difficult. It was concluded the killer or killers of Christine Prince knew exactly where they were going. It appeared the killers had driven from Sewell's Road onto the dirt road parallel to the river for a distance of about 215 meters. Fresh tire tracks in the mud from Sewell's Road to the river led police to believe she was slain and her body dumped about 200 yards upstream from where it was found. The tire tracks were later traced to a four-wheel drive Toyota model, though some reports say it may have been a Nissan, but they were unable to conclude that the vehicle was involved. It is now over 40 years since Christine's killer or killers abducted, raped, and murdered the young lady. Missing from Christine's body was a distinctive gold ring with two hearts joined together and a gold-color watch and her camera. Christine's clothing had been strewn about the area of approximately 200 meters. When investigators found her purse, a small plastic pocket-sized Kodak instant camera was missing, along with her watch and ring. Did Christine possibly manage to take a photo of her abductors? Up next, the suspects. Christine was not the only woman murdered in 1982. That year in Toronto, 7 women would turn up dead in the city. Christine was the second, just a month after Jenny Isford, 19, was discovered on a lawn in her own neighborhood, raped and strangled. Stories of the deaths hit the press. Articles ran about violence against women. Stories of women being afraid and demanding answers from the police. At one point, police tentatively linked the Prince case to the attempted rape of a woman on Humewood Avenue on May 30th, 1982. The woman was walking south on Humewood at 7:30 a.m. on her way to work at a downtown hospital when she was attacked, but she managed to bite the assailant's hand and run into the middle of the street where she alerted a passing motorist. The suspect in that attack was vaguely described as a slim black man about 6 feet tall. However, nothing ever came to this connection, with no reason ever being given. Among the named suspects police looked at were William Brett Hansen, who killed CFL cheerleader Jenny Isford in May 1982 and wasn't identified and arrested until 1995. Isford was raped and killed after getting off a bus late at night, so with the similar modus operandi, the cases were informally linked early on. Hansen was convicted on DNA evidence, but seems to have been cleared in the case of Christine Prince. Police believe that a serial killer was, or possibly still is, at work here. Police have considered infamous serial rapist and killer Paul Bernardo and serial killer drifter Danny Wood. Metro Toronto Police and Ontario Provincial Police believe Wood may have killed as many as 12 women between BC and Ontario. Police have long believed Wood worked with accomplices. Wood was definitely in Toronto at the time and was arrested for the murder of Judy Delisle in July 1982, less than a month after the murder of Christine Prince. In 1993, a fresh look at the Prince and Isford murders was taken by police after Paul Bernardo was arrested for the slayings of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. Bernardo would have been 17 years old at the time, living in Scarborough, not far from the location where Christine was found. Bernardo's sexual assault charges date back to the time of Christine's murder. From what I understand, Bernardo was never cleared in the murder of Christine Prince, but no charges were ever laid. Was it the DNA didn't match? Possibly and likely, since they certainly would have run his DNA profile. Well, you'd like to think so. 100% there is a DNA profile the police have, male DNA. At this point, the DNA isn't good enough for further testing. Police are looking to enhance the DNA profile to do biographic testing and to go ahead with genetic genealogy as well. Every 6 months, the science is improving, and police are getting close to being able to use the amount and quality of DNA they have. In 1985, the police department commissioned the FBI to do a suspect profile of the Christine Prince killer. FBI profilers surmised Prince was kidnapped by 2 men, since the act was swift and met with little resistance. They think she was bound by the wrists and taken to a place familiar to the perpetrators. One of the men is likely the leader, and he committed the rape and murder while the other stood by. According to the papers of the day, the boyfriend and the employer have been cleared as suspects. According to behavioral science experts in the FBI, items removed from victims are often given to girlfriends, wives, or even mothers. I'm asking for the public to search their memories. Did anyone receive an unexpected gift of a ring, a watch, or a Kodak Instamatic camera? It's a lot to expect after 40 years, but it is possible. According to the book A Viable Suspect by retired detective Barry Rule, he believes that a man who he calls Larry Talbot, a pseudonym, is responsible for the murder of Pauline Dudley as well as many others, including Christine Prince. Talbot worked in Toronto and lived in North Scarborough, about 7 kilometers from where Prince was found. Rule learned from a source at a credit card company that Talbot had been at Tramps, a bar located on Bloor Street east of Kipling and Etobicoke, about 10 kilometers south of the Abduction, on June 20th, 1982, on the night or early morning when Prince was abducted. Coincidentally or not, Jenny Isford had been at Tramps the night she went missing as well. Police also canvassed known sex offenders, including one in Saskatoon. Up next, my opinion. This episode is brought to you by Nickel Investigations. In my opinion, the murders of Isford and Christine Prince just don't match up, with the TTC being the only real connection, plus the rape. It also seems likely that, if not a certainty, that William Brett Hansen was ruled out by DNA. Now, Paul Bernardo, I believe he can be discounted as the murderer, but the possibility is there he is the second person involved in Christine Prince abduction. Is it possible a young Paul Bernardo was working in concert with Danny Wood, essentially an apprentice to a practiced murderer? Could Bernardo actually be the second man the FBI believes was involved and was actually the person they believe was the one who stood by while Wood committed the murder and rape, and that is why Bernardo's DNA doesn't show up in this instance? I think police would have checked the DNA of Wood against the profile they have, so it's likely it isn't Danny Wood. So who is this other person? But I just can't rule out Paul Bernardo as a second person. Was this his introduction to sexual assaults and abductions and murders? Up next, the goodbyes. In the end, Christine's body was flown back to Wales, and a memorial was held for Prince near Pinewood Avenue at Humewood Park, where she had loved to spend quiet moments. A tree was planted there in her honor. A spokesman for the group that planted the tree said that neighbors often saw her enjoying walks in the area and in the park, and they appreciated her cheerfulness and her warm smile. The neighbors hope the Christine Prince tree will remind everyone that we live in a safe, welcome place. Christine's parents said she wrote to them that she couldn't bear to leave Nicole. She was a good girl, just wanted to help people. She was really interested in working with handicapped children and only took the job in Canada so she could work with children, her father said in an interview at the time. A DNA profile does exist. This is a solvable case. All that is needed is a name, a name and the police can check against the profile. Please think long and hard and let me or the police know if you remember anything at all. If you have any information regarding this case, please contact me at jnichol@protonmail.com. That's JAYNICOLL at protonmail.com, or at Ontario Cold Cases on Facebook or Nickel Investigations. Or contact Toronto Homicide at 416-808-7400, or at homicide@torontopolice.on.ca, or call Crime Stoppers anonymously at 416-222-TIPS. All these links will be provided in the write-up at the end. The next episode, available on Tuesday, October 24th, will be about Donna Jean Alcock, 17 years old, a lively person who loved to babysit and play baseball. 4 decades ago, she disappeared after watching a group of children and was found murdered on October 13th, 1983 in London, Ontario. Her older sister, Tammy Dennett, is determined to keep her story alive and to bring the killer to justice. This episode has been brought to you by Nickel Investigations. Thank you for listening, and please consider donating to our GoFundMe. You can link to from our Cold Cases Facebook page and following us on Patreon so we can continue future investigations. Links to all, including contact information, are included in the write-up. Thank you and good day.